Commander Zethic paced the command deck of the Valderan warship Stellar Dominance, his forearms gesturing wildly as he spoke to his assembled officers. The bridge hummed with activity as dozens of alien species worked at their stations, preparing for what they believed would be another routine conquest. "Today marks the beginning of the human subjugation campaign," Zethic announced, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "Our intelligence reports suggest these creatures will provide minimal resistance. They are primitive, lacking our advanced technology and military prowess." Lieutenant Crix, a tall mantis-like being from the Nexori system, raised one of his blade-like appendages. "Sir, what about the reports we've received about human combat capabilities? Some of the captured data files contain rather unusual claims." Zethic's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. "Ah, yes, the human legends. Tell me, Crix, what did these amusing tales contain?" Crix consulted his tablet, his compound eyes scanning the data. "Well, sir, there are stories about individual humans fighting against impossible odds. One file describes a human soldier who held a position against thousands of enemies for several days. Another tells of humans who continued fighting even after sustaining injuries that should have been fatal." The command deck erupted in a chorus of alien laughter. Species from across the galaxy found the notion absurd. Sergeant Vorthak, a heavily armored Chronet, slapped his knee with enough force to dent metal. "These humans must have active imaginations," Vorthak rumbled through his translator. "No single soldier could hold against thousands. It defies all military logic and biology." "Indeed," Zethic agreed, his confidence growing. "Captain Rylix, what did your cultural analysis team discover about these supposed heroic humans?" Captain Rylix, a blue-skinned Zenithian with telepathic abilities, floated forward using her race's natural psychic powers. "Commander, the humans appear to worship something they call warriors from their past. They have countless stories about individuals who performed impossible feats in battle. They speak of humans who fought entire armies alone or who refused to surrender even when facing certain death." "Fascinating," Zethic mused. "They've created mythology around their own species. How quaint. What other delusions do they harbor?" "There are accounts of humans displaying what they call adrenaline responses," Rylix continued. "They claim this biological function allows them to perform beyond normal physical limitations during extreme stress. Some reports suggest humans have lifted objects many times their body weight or continued fighting despite severe injuries." The laughter grew louder. Dr. Quilanx, the ship's chief medical officer and a member of the highly advanced Ascendant race, shook his elongated head. "Commander, I've studied biology across 17 different species. No known creature can simply exceed its limitations through stress hormones. These humans clearly don't understand basic physiology." "What else did you find in their cultural archives?" Zethic asked, genuinely entertained by what he perceived as human naivety. Lieutenant Crix scrolled through more files. "They have extensive documentation about something called special forces, according to their records. These are elite human soldiers who undergo extreme training and can operate behind enemy lines for extended periods. The humans claim these soldiers can survive in hostile environments with minimal equipment and eliminate targets with supernatural precision." "Supernatural precision!" Vorthak laughed so hard his armor plates rattled. "Next, they'll claim their soldiers can see through walls or become invisible." "Actually, sir," Crix said hesitantly, "some of their files do mention stealth. Capabilities that seem unlikely. They describe soldiers who can move unseen through heavily guarded areas and eliminate sentries without raising alarms." The entire command deck burst into renewed laughter. Even the usually stoic Zenithian officers found themselves amused by the human claims. "Commander," said Engineer Trelux, "a crystalline being whose species had mastered technology millennia ago. I've analyzed their military equipment specifications. Their weapons are crude chemical propellant devices. Their armor is primitive metal and polymer composites. Their vehicles rely on combustion engines and simple electronics. How could such backward beings pose any threat to our advanced forces? Zethik nodded approvingly. Exactly my thoughts, Trolux. Our plasma weapons can disintegrate their armor instantly. Our shields can deflect any projectile they might fire. Our anti-gravity vehicles move faster than anything in their arsenal. Dr. Quilanx raised a tentacle thoughtfully. There is one curious aspect of their physiology I discovered during my analysis. Humans possess an unusually high pain tolerance compared to most sentient species. They also have redundant systems that allow them to function even when severely injured. However, this hardly makes them superhuman as their legends suggest. Pain tolerance means nothing against proper weapons, Zethik dismissed. Our neural disruptors can incapacitate any nervous system instantly. These humans won't have the opportunity to display their supposed endurance. Navigation Officer Helsink, a tall, gray-skinned voidwalker, approached the command platform. Sir, we're approaching the human system designated Sol. Our scouts report several military installations on the third planet. Shall I prepare the standard intimidation broadcast? Yes, do that, Zethik ordered. Though I suspect these humans will surrender immediately once they see our technological superiority. Most species do. As the fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth, the aliens marveled at the primitive nature of human space defenses. Their sensors detected several orbital stations and a few patrol vessels, but nothing that registered as a significant threat. Their defensive grid is almost non-existent, reported Tactical Officer Nemix. I'm reading approximately 47. Orbital defense platforms armed with kinetic weapons and primitive missile systems. Their largest warships appear to be less than 2 kilometers in length. Pathetic, Zethik muttered. Our smallest destroyer could eliminate their entire defensive fleet single-handedly. Activate the communication array. Let's see how these legendary warriors respond to superior force. The main screen flickered to life, showing a communication channel directed toward Earth. After several minutes, a response came through. The image showed a middle-aged human male in what appeared to be a military uniform. His expression was calm, almost resigned. This is Admiral Chun of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said. You are entering sovereign human space. State your intentions. Zethik stepped forward, all 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. I am Commander Zethik of the Valderan Empire. We claim this system in the name of Galactic Order. Surrender immediately, and your species will be granted the privilege of serving our alliance as a subordinate member. Admiral Chin's expression didn't change. I'm afraid we cannot accept those terms. We will defend our world. The alien command deck erupted in surprised chatter. Lieutenant Crix leaned toward his commander. Sir, he doesn't seem afraid. Most species show clear signs of terror when confronted with our fleet. Perhaps their primitive technology prevents them from properly assessing our capabilities, suggested Dr. Quilanx. Their sensors might not be advanced enough to realize how outmatched they are. Admiral Chun continued speaking. Commander Zethik, I strongly advise you to reconsider your attack. We may not have your advanced technology, but we have other advantages that your intelligence files probably didn't mention. Zethik's mandibles clicked in amusement. Human, you possess no advantages over the combined might of 7 galactic civilizations. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your vessels cannot match our speed or maneuverability. What possible advantage could you claim? The human admiral's lips curved into what the aliens would later learn was called a smile, though they didn't recognize it as such at the time. Experience, Commander. We humans have been fighting wars against impossible odds for thousands of years. We've developed certain ... techniques that don't appear in any technological database. Techniques? Vorthik laughed. What techniques could possibly overcome technological superiority? You'll find out soon enough, Admiral Chun replied calmly. I've already dispatched word to our special operations units. They're quite interested in meeting an enemy who's never encountered human warfare before. Special operations? Zethik scoffed. You mean those mythical super soldiers from your cultural archives? The ones who supposedly perform impossible feats? He turned to address his crew. Prepare all weapons. We'll demonstrate the futility of their resistance quickly. Admiral Chun nodded slowly. Very well, Commander. But don't say we didn't warn you. Chun out. The communication ended, leaving the alien bridge in a state of confused amusement. Did he just threaten us? Asked Captain Rylix, genuinely puzzled. His species faces complete annihilation, yet he spoke as if he held some advantage. Primitive species often display irrational courage when facing extinction, Dr. Quilanx explained. It's a psychological defense mechanism. They prefer to maintain hope rather than accept reality. Zethik settled into his command chair, all four arms resting confidently on the armrests. Begin the assault. Target their orbital installations first. Once we've eliminated their defenses, we'll land ground forces and demonster. The first indication something was wrong came from the outer perimeter ships. Commander, Tactical Officer Nemix reported, his voice tight with confusion. The destroyer Void Crusher has gone silent. All communication ceased 3 minutes ago. Zethik's four eyes focused on the tactical display. The destroyer had been positioned on the fleet's outer edge, well beyond the range of any human weapons. Equipment malfunction? Negative, sir. All systems were operating normally until the signal cut off completely. No distress call, no weapons discharge detected, no explosion signature. The ship simply stopped transmitting. Captain Rylix floated closer to the main display, her telepathic senses probing the area around the silent vessel. I'm not detecting any life signs from that sector, Commander. Either the crew has been evacuated or... She didn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung heavy in the recycled air of the command deck. That's impossible, declared Engineer Trolux. Human weapons cannot penetrate Valderan's shields at that range. Their primitive projectile weapons would be absorbed by our energy barriers without causing damage. Lieutenant Crix consulted his sensor readings with growing alarm. Sir, I'm detecting similar communication losses from 3 escort ships. The pattern is identical, normal operations followed by complete signal termination. The laughter from earlier had died completely. The alien crew now monitored their instruments with increasing tension, trying to understand how an inferior enemy could eliminate their vessels without triggering any defensive systems. Visual confirmation on the Void Crusher, called Sensor Operator Kelix. Displaying on main screen now. The image that appeared sent a chill through every alien present. The destroyer hung motionless in space, its lights dark, its massive hull intact but somehow wrong. No obvious damage marked the vessel's exterior, yet something about its stillness suggested death. Launch a reconnaissance probe, Zethik ordered. I want to know what happened to that ship. As the probe approached the silent destroyer, its cameras revealed details that defied explanation. Small, precisely cut holes appeared in the hull at various points, not the massive tears that energy weapons would create, but surgical incisions that seemed to target specific systems. Those holes, Dr. Quilanx observed. Studying the feed intently, they're too small and precise for any weapon we know. Each one appears to have penetrated exactly the right location to disable critical systems. Perhaps they use some form of laser drill? Suggested Vorthok, though his tone lacked conviction. The holes are perfectly round and show no heat damage, Trolux pointed out. Any energy weapon would leave scorching around the impact point. These cuts are clean. The probe's signal suddenly ended, its camera feed cutting to static. What happened to the probe? Zethik demanded. Kelix frantically worked his controls. Unknown, sir. One moment it was transmitting normally, the next thing, no weapons discharge, no explosion, no debris field. Lieutenant Crix's voice cracked slightly as he delivered his next report. Commander, we've lost contact with 6 more vessels. The pattern is spreading through our outer formation. This is impossible. Zethik roared, his earlier confidence completely shattered. No known species can eliminate our ships without triggering any defensive systems. Our sensors would detect any approaching weapons. Captain Rylix had gone pale, her telepathic abilities picking up something that terrified her. "Sir, I'm detecting brief mental signatures near each ship before it goes dark. The thoughts are human, but unlike any human consciousness I've ever encountered. They're focused to an incredible degree, completely devoid of fear or doubt. You're detecting human minds in space?" Dr. Quilanx asked. "That's biologically impossible. Humans cannot survive in vacuum." "According to our intelligence files," Rylix replied weakly, "neither can they perform most of the feats described in their legends." The truth was slowly dawning on the alien command staff, but their technological superiority had left them unprepared for warfare that operated outside their understanding of physics and biology. "Sir," Nemix called out urgently, "I'm detecting multiple small contacts moving through our formation. They're too small to be ships, but they're maneuvering with purpose." "Show me," Zephyk commanded. The tactical display revealed dozens of tiny objects weaving between the alien vessels. They moved without visible propulsion, seeming to drift naturally through space while somehow maintaining exact courses toward specific targets. "Those objects," Trellux said slowly, "they're approximately the size of individual humanoids." The command deck fell silent as the implications sank in. The objects weren't weapons or vehicles, they were people. Humans were somehow operating in the vacuum of space, moving between alien ships like ghosts. "That's impossible," Dr. Quilanx whispered. "No biological entity can survive exposure to vacuum. The pressure differential would cause immediate decompression. The radiation would be lethal. The temperature extremes would freeze tissue instantly." "Yet there they are," Captain Rylix said, her voice filled with growing horror as she monitored the human mental patterns. "And their thoughts? They're not just surviving in space. They're hunting. Open fire on those contacts." Zephyk ordered desperately. "All point defense systems, maximum dispersion." The alien fleet erupted with energy weapons, filling the space around them with deadly plasma streams. The targeting computers locked onto the small human contacts and fired with mechanical precision. Every shot missed. The humans moved through the weapon's fire like it was merely light, anticipating each shot and adjusting their trajectories with impossible grace. They seemed to know where every blast would be before the weapons had even fired. "How are they doing that?" Vorthek demanded. "Our targeting computers are precise to within millimeters. Nothing can dodge our weapons at that range." Lieutenant Crick studied his tactical display with growing dread. "Sir, the movement patterns suggest they're predicting our targeting algorithms. Each human contact adjusts course exactly 0.3 seconds before our weapons fire." "They're reading our systems somehow?" "Impossible," Engineer Trollocs protested. "Our computer systems are encrypted with quantum algorithms. No primitive species could crack our targeting protocols." On the main screen, one of the human contacts had reached the hull of a Valderan cruiser. The figure appeared human in shape but was enclosed in what looked like a form-fitting, environmental suit covered in strange markings. As the aliens watched in horrified fascination, the human attached something to the ship's hull and then pushed off, drifting toward another vessel. "What did it attach?" Zethik asked. The question was answered moments later when the cruiser's main reactor went into emergency shutdown. The massive vessel's lights flickered and died, its weapons falling silent as power systems failed throughout the ship. "The attached device appears to have interfaced directly with the ship's power grid," reported Kellix. "It bypassed all security protocols and initiated a cascade failure that disabled every major system. Our security systems are designed to prevent exactly that kind of intrusion," Trollocs protested. "They would need to understand our technology better than we do to accomplish such precise sabotage." More human contacts reached other ships throughout the fleet. Each one carried identical devices that seemed to know exactly where to attach for maximum effect. Within minutes, a third of the Valderan fleet had gone dark. "Sir," Nemik said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I'm reading similar contacts approaching our ship. On the external cameras, they could see human figures moving across their hull with practiced efficiency. The environmental suits they wore seemed to incorporate technology that the aliens didn't recognize. adaptive camouflage that bent light around them, magnetic anchoring systems that allowed movement across any surface, and tool configurations that suggested extensive training in ship infiltration. Security teams to the outer hull, Zethik commanded. Repel those boarders. Sir, interrupted Dr. Quilanx, our security teams cannot operate in vacuum. We'd need to deploy them in full environmental suits, which would take at least 20 minutes to prepare. 20 minutes? Zethik stared at the doctor in disbelief. Our species never evolved for vacuum exposure, Commander. Unlike these humans, apparently. Through the ship's internal sensors, they could detect vibrations as the humans worked on the outer hull. The sounds were precise and methodical, suggesting they knew exactly what they were doing. They're cutting through our armor, reported Chief Engineer Vorthok. But the cutting pattern is surgical. They're not trying to breach the hull, they're accessing specific systems. Which systems? Zethik demanded. Navigation, communications, weapons control, and power distribution. They know our ship's design better than some of our own crew. Captain Rylix suddenly gasped, her telepathic abilities picking up something that filled her with terror. Commander, I'm detecting human thoughts inside our ship. They're already aboard. That's impossible. Zethik protested. We've been monitoring all airlocks and docking ports. Nothing has breached our hull integrity. Then how do you explain the human mental signatures I'm detecting in sections 7, 12, and 19? Rylix asked, her voice trembling. Zethik activated the internal security monitors, cycling through cameras throughout the ship. For several tense minutes, they saw only normal crew activity. Then in-corridor junked. Sergeant Morrison stepped forward, his movements precise and controlled. Every alien on the command deck studied him with new eyes, no longer seeing a primitive humanoid but something far more dangerous. 6 months, Zethik repeated slowly. Your entire species can learn these abilities in 6 months? Not every human, Admiral Chun corrected. Only those with the aptitude and determination to complete the training. But we have found that humans possess certain biological and psychological advantages that make such training possible. Dr. Quilanx activated his medical scanner, focusing on Sergeant Morrison. The readings that appeared caused him to recalibrate his instruments twice. This cannot be correct. The biological readings suggest cellular adaptations that should be impossible for any naturally evolved species. What kind of adaptations? Captain Rylix asked, her telepathic senses still overwhelmed by the intensity of human mental patterns. Enhanced oxygen efficiency at the cellular level. Increased bone density, muscle fibers that operate at 30% above theoretical maximum, and neural pathways that process information at speeds approaching artificial intelligence levels. Dr. Quilanx read from his scanner. These aren't normal biological traits. Sergeant Morrison spoke for the first time, his voice calm and steady. Doctor, you're seeing the results of human adaptive training. Our bodies can be conditioned to operate far beyond baseline parameters when necessary. We call it pushing human limits. Impossible, Engineer Trolux protested. Biological systems have fixed limitations. You cannot simply decide to exceed them, can't we? Morrison asked. He reached into his equipment pack and withdrew what appeared to be a standard human projectile weapon, a primitive firearm by alien standards. Computer, calculate the trajectory needed to ricochet a projectile off 3 surfaces and strike the red indicator light in section 12. Zethik's ship computer processed the request and responded. Trajectory calculation requires 17 variables and precise angle control within 0.001 degrees. Recommended method, guided targeting system with gyroscopic stabilization. Morrison raised the weapon without any visible targeting assistance. Here's how humans solve complex problems. He fired once. The projectile bounced off the specified surfaces, exactly as calculated, and destroyed the indicator light with perfect precision. The command deck fell silent. Even their most advanced targeting computers would have struggled with such a calculation. Yet the human had performed it instinctively. How? Tactical Officer Nemix whispered. Training, instinct, and something you haven't encountered before, Morrison replied. Human intuition combined with learned skill. We don't calculate trajectories consciously, we feel them. Admiral Chun gestured to something off-screen, and the main display shifted to show Earth's surface. The image revealed hundreds of facilities scattered across every continent, all buzzing with human activity. What you've seen today represents a small fraction of human military capability, Chun explained. Every nation on our planet maintains special operations forces. We have units trained for every conceivable combat environment: desert, Arctic, underwater, underground, and yes, zero-gravity operations. Lieutenant Crick studied the display with growing horror. How many of these special soldiers do humans maintain? Currently active special operations personnel number approximately 2 million worldwide, Chun answered casually. But in wartime, we can mobilize anyone who has completed the basic training. That number reaches approximately 50 million. 50 million? Zethik's voice cracked. You maintain an army of 50 million soldiers with capabilities equivalent to what we just witnessed? No, Commander, Morrison interjected. What you witnessed was basic infiltration and sabotage training. Our advanced operators possess capabilities far beyond what I demonstrated today. As if to prove his point, the ship's sensors detected multiple new contacts approaching the alien fleet. These weren't the small, individual signatures they had seen before, but larger vessels that moved with impossible speed and agility. Those ships, Engineer Trollocs observed, they're maneuvering at accelerations that should crush any biological crew. No living being can survive those forces. Unless they've trained for it, Morrison said simply. Human pilots undergo conditioning that allows them to function at acceleration levels that would incapacitate most species. We call it high-G tolerance training. The human vessels move through the alien formation with breathtaking precision, never colliding despite their incredible speed. They seem to dance through space, performing maneuvers that violated everything the aliens understood about physics and biology. Impossible, Vorthek muttered. Those craft are pulling 15 Gs in their turns? The pilots should be unconscious. On the communication channel, Admiral Chun smiled. Commander Zethik, those pilots are pulling 22 Gs and maintaining full consciousness. Human Special Forces pilots train at up to 30 Gs for short periods. Dr. Quilanx frantically recalculated his biological assessments. At those acceleration levels, blood cannot reach the brain. Bone structure should collapse. Internal organs should rupture. Yet there they are, Captain Rylix observed. Her telepathic readings confirming that the human pilots remained fully conscious and alert despite the impossible physical stresses they endured. More contacts appeared on the sensors. Larger ships emerging from behind Earth's moon. These vessels displayed technology that the aliens didn't recognize. But their design suggested capabilities that challenged everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare. Admiral, Zethik said weakly, your technology appears to have advanced considerably since our last intelligence update. Chun's expression grew serious. Commander, that technology isn't new. We've simply never had reason to deploy it before. Human military doctrine emphasizes adaptation and escalation. We reveal capabilities only when necessary. What other capabilities are you concealing? Zethik asked, though he dreaded the answer. Would you like a demonstration? Morrison asked. He touched a control on his equipment, and every screen on the alien ship flickered briefly. When the display stabilized, they showed impossible things. Alien ships throughout the fleet were being boarded by humans who seemed to materialize from nowhere. Security cameras captured figures moving through bulkheads as if they were empty space. Others showed humans operating in hard vacuum without environmental suits, their bodies somehow adapted for space operations. How are they moving through solid matter? Trollocs demanded. Phase shift technology, Morrison explained. We learned to manipulate molecular density at the quantum level. It allows temporary passage through most solid barriers. And the vacuum operations? Dr. Quilanx asked, his scientific worldview crumbling. The biological adaptation training taken to its logical conclusion, Morrison replied. Humans can learn to slow their metabolism, alter their blood chemistry, and restructure their cellular processes to survive in environments that would kill most species. We call them extremophile protocols. The demonstration continued as human soldiers appeared throughout the alien fleet, moving with purpose and precision that suggested complete familiarity with alien technology. They didn't destroy or damage the ships. Instead, they systematically disabled weapons and defensive systems while leaving life support intact. "Why aren't they killing us?" Captain Rylix asked, genuinely puzzled by the human restraint. Admiral Chun answered from the communication channel. "Because killing you isn't our objective, Captain. Humans learned long ago that victory through destruction is temporary. True victory comes from understanding and integration." "Integration?" Zephyk echoed. "Commander, your species possesses advanced technology that could benefit humanity greatly. Our species possesses adaptive capabilities that your alliance has never encountered. Rather than destroying each other, we propose cooperation." The alien commander stared at the screen in disbelief. "You're offering an alliance? After demonstrating that you could eliminate our entire fleet?" "The demonstration was necessary to establish mutual respect," Chun replied. "Your intelligence files suggested humans were primitive and weak. We needed to correct that misunderstanding before meaningful negotiations could begin." Morrison gestured to the tactical display, where human forces had completely neutralized the alien fleet without causing a single casualty. "What you called legends, we call standard operating procedure. Every story in our cultural archives that your analysts dismissed as mythology represents actual human capabilities." "The soldier who held against thousands?" Zephyk asked quietly. "Sergeant York, World War I, confirmed historical fact," Morrison answered. "He eliminated over 20 enemy soldiers and captured 132 prisoners single-handedly. The warriors who continued fighting despite fatal injuries. Too many to name, but documented throughout our history. Humans possess biological redundancies and psychological conditioning that allow continued function even under severe trauma." Dr. Quilank spoke up hesitantly. "The accounts of humans lifting objects many times their body weight?" "Adrenaline response combined with proper training," Morrison explained. "Human mothers have lifted automobiles to save their children. Soldiers have carried wounded comrades over impossible distances. When necessary, human performance exceeds all theoretical limitations." The alien crew exchanged glances.